The rain was relentless that morning, drumming against the city streets like a warning. James hurried along the sidewalk, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other, his 7-year-old son, Lucas, clutching his coat tightly beside him. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 2 years ago. Between raising Lucas alone and keeping up with his demanding office job, mornings like this were exhausting. As he rushed past the subway entrance, something, or rather someone, caught his eye. A young woman was standing there, drenched, her thin coat doing little to protect her from the rain. She had a small cardboard sign at her feet, and a tin can sat beside it, almost empty. Her hair, dark and damp, stuck to her face, and her eyes. Her eyes were what made James stop. Tired, wary, yet holding a glimmer of hope. Without thinking, he set down his coffee for a moment and approached her. "Hey, you're going to catch a cold out here," he said, his voice gentle. The woman looked up, startled. She was young, maybe 25, but her face carried a weight far older than her years. I'll be fine," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. James shook his head. "No, you won't. Here, take this." He handed her the steaming coffee he'd just bought, careful not to spill. Her eyes widened. She hesitated, glancing around, as if unsure whether she should accept a stranger's kindness. But hunger and exhaustion won over. She took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she said softly, almost shyly. "Name's James," he said, offering a small smile. "And this little troublemaker is Lucas," he added, gesturing to his son. Lucas waved, shyly smiling. The woman's lips twitched in a fleeting smile. "Emily," she said. James noticed the slight tremor in her hands as she sipped the coffee. "Where are you staying?" he asked carefully. Emily's eyes darted away. I move around. I work odd jobs, sell things." Her voice trailed off. James could sense her pride, her unwillingness to burden anyone, yet he also felt a tug in his heart. He knew he couldn't just walk away. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, "I don't know your story and I'm not here to judge. But I can help. Just a little for now. You deserve some warmth at least for today." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She wanted to refuse, truly she did. But the kindness in James's tone was disarming. She nodded slightly. "Okay, thank you." Over the next few minutes, James shared his umbrella with Emily, offered her a small snack from the cafe next door, and even gave her a spare blanket he had in his car for Lucas. It wasn't much, but for Emily it was everything. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt safe, cared for, seen. James didn't ask for anything in return. He simply wanted to make a difference in someone's day, someone's life. And as Emily thanked him again, her voice barely above a whisper, he noticed the faintest spark in her eyes, a flicker of hope he hadn't seen in anyone struggling like her. As he left for work, he glanced back. Emily stood under the subway roof, wrapped in a blanket, sipping the coffee slowly, as if savoring every drop. She gave a small wave. James waved back. Neither of them knew it yet, but this small act of kindness would become a daily ritual, one that would change both of their lives forever. The rain had passed, leaving the city streets glistening under the weak morning sun. James adjusted his tie and checked his watch, mentally preparing for another long day at the office. Yet, no matter how hectic life got, he never missed one thing: stopping by the subway entrance to check on Emily. It had become a quiet routine over the past week. Every morning, James and Lucas would pass by, and Emily would be there, waiting with her little stand of trinkets and handmade crafts. Some days she smiled more easily, other days her eyes were clouded with exhaustion, but she was always there. "Morning, Emily." Lucas called out, waving energetically. Emily looked up and returned the wave, a small smile breaking through her tired expression. "Morning, Lucas." "Morning, James," she said, her voice growing steadier with each passing day. James reached into his bag and handed her a warm breakfast sandwich. "Hot and ready. Just like you like it." Emily chuckled softly. "You remembered." "Of course," James said, grinning. "I don't forget what's important." It wasn't much, but for Emily it was everything. In a world where people hurried past, barely noticing her existence, James treated her like she mattered, and she did. Slowly, her walls began to come down. Over the next few days, James brought her more than just food. He gave her a warm coat, some socks, and even an umbrella that had seen better days but was still serviceable. Emily always protested politely. "You don't have to," she would say, but James never let her finish. "I do," he would reply firmly. "Everyone deserves a little kindness." Lucas loved the routine as much as James. He would sneak extra granola bars and hand them to Emily with a shy smile, giggling when she pretended to scold him. Those small interactions were more than charity. They were the beginning of a genuine friendship. Despite the growing bond, Emily remained careful. She never talked about her family, her past, or why she was living on the streets. James didn't push, though. He understood the power of silence, of letting someone feel safe without asking for answers they weren't ready to give. But James couldn't ignore the nagging curiosity. One morning, as they walked together under the rising sun, he asked gently, "Emily, you don't have to tell me if you're not ready, but why are you out here every day? You're smart, capable. Why struggle like this?" Emily stopped for a moment, looking down at the pavement. Her fingers fiddled with the edge of her coat. Life doesn't always go the way you plan," she whispered. Her eyes flicked up briefly, meeting James's, before looking away again. James nodded, understanding more than words could express. "I get it," he said softly. "I've had my own struggles too. Raising a kid alone. It's not easy. But maybe we can help each other." Emily smiled faintly, a gesture full of gratitude and quiet relief. "Maybe," she said. Days turned into weeks, and the small routine solidified. James never expected anything in return, and Emily never asked for more than what was given. It was a simple, quiet connection that neither of them had realized they needed. Then, one morning, something felt different. Emily was waiting in her usual spot, but she looked tense, almost anxious. The smile she usually greeted them with was absent. James slowed his pace. "Everything okay?" he asked. Emily hesitated, glancing at the busy street around them as if checking for someone. I have to go somewhere after this," she said, her voice clipped. "I'll see you tomorrow." James felt a pang of worry. "Are you sure? Do you need me to?" "No," she interrupted gently, but with a firmness that left him uneasy. "I'll be fine. Thank you for everything." As she turned and walked away, James watched her go, his chest heavy with concern. He didn't know it yet, but the tension in her posture was a hint of a secret far bigger than anything he could imagine. A secret that would soon change both of their lives forever. That night, James reflected on the past weeks. He had given her food, warmth, and kindness, but he realized he had received something far more valuable in return. Hope, gratitude, and the reminder that small gestures could leave a lifelong impact. Little did he know, Emily's life was about to take a dramatic turn, one that would thrust him into a world he never expected. Lawyers, bodyguards, and truths hidden beneath layers of struggle. And yet, through it all, one thing would remain constant. The simple, unshakable bond formed by genuine human kindness. The city was waking up, and the air carried the usual mix of exhaust fumes, bakery scents, and the faint hum of early morning traffic. James was already juggling his briefcase and Lucas's school bag when he spotted Emily in her usual corner, sitting on a worn cardboard mat, her trinkets arranged neatly despite the chill in the air. Something felt different today. Her shoulders were slumped more than usual, and her eyes, usually cautious but bright, seemed heavier, like they were carrying an invisible weight. James's heart tightened. "Morning, Emily," he called, approaching her quickly. She looked up and forced a faint smile. "Morning, James." "Morning, Lucas," she said, her voice quieter than usual. Lucas ran over and held out the small granola bars he had secretly taken from the kitchen that morning. Emily accepted them gratefully, her fingers trembling slightly. James noticed the subtle signs, the bruises on her hands from carrying heavy crates the night before, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she avoided answering his questions fully. He wanted to ask, but he also knew she wasn't ready to open up. Over the next few minutes, James offered her coffee, a warm breakfast sandwich, and a light jacket he had brought for her. Emily accepted everything silently, but her gratitude was written in her eyes. You really don't have to do all this for me, she whispered, finally breaking her silence. You have your own life, your own problems. James crouched slightly to meet her gaze. Emily, helping someone doesn't mean we have to fix everything, he said gently. It just means we care. And right now, that's all that matters. Emily's eyes shimmered, and for a moment, her carefully maintained composure cracked. It's just life. It's hard. Really hard, she said softly. James nodded. He understood more than she realized. I know, he said. I'm a single dad. Every day is a struggle. But sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can make life feel a little easier. Emily looked down at the pavement, her voice barely audible. You don't understand. Some days, I don't even know if I can make it. Lucas, sensing the sadness, reached over and held Emily's hand for a moment. She looked at him and smiled faintly, the first real smile that day. James felt a pang of warmth in his chest. Even in her struggle, she was kind, strong, and resilient. For the next hour, they sat together, talking about small things. The weather, Lucas's school projects, funny stories from James's work. Emily laughed quietly, but James could see the fatigue in her smile. Life hadn't been gentle with her, and he realized just how much she had endured silently. As the morning progressed, a group of passers-by sneered at Emily, whispering about that poor girl. James felt a surge of anger but held it back. He couldn't control the world, but he could protect her in his small way. He stepped closer, subtly shielding her from the worst of the comments, his presence a quiet but firm barrier. By noon, Emily had packed up her trinkets and prepared to leave. James handed her a few extra sandwiches and a bottle of water. Take care of yourself, he said. Emily hesitated, glancing down at her hands. James, why do you care so much? You barely know me. Maybe that's exactly why, he replied softly. Sometimes, helping someone isn't about knowing them, it's about seeing them. And I see you, Emily. I see you trying. I see you surviving. That's enough. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. Thank you for everything, she whispered. As Emily walked away, James couldn't shake a growing sense of curiosity. There was something about her story he didn't know, something hidden beneath the layers of hardship. But he didn't press. He knew that trust couldn't be rushed. That night, James told Lucas about Emily in a way that made his son understand kindness without pity. She's strong, Lucas, James said. And sometimes we get the chance to help people who are quietly fighting battles we can't see. That's when kindness really matters. What James didn't realize yet was that Emily's struggle wasn't just about poverty or circumstance. There was a deeper story, a secret that could shake everything he knew about her. And soon, that secret would surface in a way he could never have imagined. Lawyers, bodyguards, and a life she had hidden from the world. But for now, they had this morning, this connection, and a quiet understanding that sometimes, saving someone's heart was more important than saving their life. The morning air was crisp, almost eerily quiet, as James walked Lucas to the subway. Their routine had become comforting, a small anchor in the chaos of their lives. But today, something felt different. Emily was waiting in her usual spot, but she didn't smile. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, and she kept glancing over her shoulder as if watching the street for someone. James felt a flicker of unease. Emily, he called softly, approaching her. She turned, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made him stop mid-step. James, I need to tell you something, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Before he could respond, the rumble of a black SUV echoed against the buildings. 4 men in dark suits stepped out, their sunglasses reflecting the morning light. James froze. Lucas clung to his leg, eyes wide. Emily, who are they? James asked, his heart pounding. She swallowed hard. You need to hear this from me, she said. Her gaze darted to the men. They were flanking a woman in an elegant dress, holding a folder tightly in her hands. Emily's expression softened as she approached James. I wasn't always like this, Emily began, her voice barely audible. I wasn't always poor. James blinked, confusion flooding his mind. What do you mean? The woman in the dress stepped forward, her posture professional but calm. "James, please meet Ms. Emily Carter," she said. "She's been through a lot, but she's ready to reconnect with the world she had to leave behind." Emily took a deep breath. "I lost everything in a corporate fraud. My family's company collapsed, and I had to disappear. To survive. I couldn't trust anyone. Not even friends, not even family. That's why I had to hide." James's mouth went dry. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The woman he had been helping every morning, the girl selling trinkets, struggling to get by, was from a wealthy family. She had been living a double life, hiding her fortune and her identity to protect herself. "And these," Emily gestured to the men in suits, "are my lawyers and security. They're here to make sure I'm safe. But I insisted they let me see you first, James. Because you saved me in ways no money could ever repay." James felt a mix of shock, disbelief, and awe. I don't understand," he stammered. "I was just helping you." Emily smiled, tears brimming in her eyes. "That's exactly it. You didn't help me for money, for fame, for anything. You helped me because you cared. And that means more than anything in the world." Lucas stepped forward shyly, holding Emily's hand. "She's nice, Dad," he said simply. James chuckled nervously, still trying to wrap his head around the revelation. "You could have told me. Any time." "I know," Emily replied. "But I didn't want to risk losing the only person who would see me without my wealth, without my name. Just me." The lawyer stepped forward and handed Emily a folder. "All legal matters are ready. Assets, inheritance, security arrangements. But she requested your presence, Mr. James, because she wanted the first person she trusted to know." James took a step back, overwhelmed. The truth hit him in waves. The small acts of kindness he had given without expectation had not only comforted a struggling young woman, they had restored her faith in humanity during the darkest time of her life. Emily looked at him one last time before turning to her lawyers. "Thank you, James. For everything. You showed me that people can be good, even when the world isn't." James felt a lump in his throat. He glanced at Lucas, who smiled up at him, sensing the profound moment without needing to understand the details. The SUV doors closed, the bodyguards flanking Emily and the lawyers. As they drove away, James felt an unusual warmth in his chest. Despite the shock, the fear, and the disbelief, he realized something important. He hadn't helped Emily to get rewarded, but this, seeing her safe, happy, and finally free, was more than any reward he could imagine. Later that day, James sat in his office, replaying the morning over and over in his mind. How a simple act of kindness had connected two very different lives, and how trust and empathy could bridge even the most impossible gaps. He smiled softly, thinking of Emily, knowing one thing for certain. Sometimes the smallest gestures can change lives in ways we never expect. And sometimes the people we think are the ones in need are the ones who teach us the most about generosity, courage, and heart. The city had settled into its usual rhythm, but for James, nothing felt ordinary anymore. The morning sun filtered through his apartment window, casting a warm glow over the small kitchen where he and Lucas ate breakfast. He thought about Emily, about the woman he had helped without hesitation, never expecting anything in return, and couldn't help but smile. A week had passed since the dramatic morning when lawyers and bodyguards had appeared. Emily's life was being carefully rebuilt, her assets restored, and her safety secured. And yet, despite all the changes, she hadn't forgotten the little corner of the city where kindness had found her first. James's phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "Meet me at the park. I want you to see something." Curiosity piqued, James grabbed Lucas's hand, and they headed toward the nearby park. When they arrived, Emily was waiting, without bodyguards, without fanfare, just her, smiling genuinely, dressed simply but elegantly. She looked like herself, yet stronger, freer, and unburdened by the weight she had carried for so long. "Emily." Lucas ran ahead and hugged her. She laughed, ruffling his hair affectionately. James approached, heart pounding. "You wanted us here?" Emily nodded. "I did. I wanted to show you something." She handed him a small box, simple, but heavy with significance. James opened it carefully. Inside were documents, legal forms ensuring that James and Lucas would never have to worry about money again. College funds, savings, a small trust, all set up in their names. James stared at her, stunned. "Emily, you didn't have to." She shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "I wanted to. Not because I expect anything in return, but because you saved me when nobody else could. You believed in me even when I had nothing to give. That kind of kindness, it's priceless." Lucas tugged at James's sleeve. "Dad, we're rich," he asked, wide-eyed but innocent. James laughed, hugging his son tightly. "Not rich like in the movies, buddy, but we'll be okay. And we'll always have each other." Emily stepped closer to James. "I also wanted to say, I'll never forget you. You didn't help me because of who I was or what I had. You helped me because you're a good person. And that's rare." James's throat tightened. "You don't know how much it means to hear that," he whispered. "Sometimes we think our small gestures don't matter. But they do. They really do." Emily smiled softly, her gaze lingering on Lucas. "He's lucky to have you," she said. "And I'm lucky to have met both of you. You reminded me that there's still good in the world, even when life knocks you down." They spent the afternoon together in the park, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Emily didn't need to be protected by lawyers or bodyguards anymore. She had reclaimed her life. And James realized something important. Helping someone isn't about receiving gratitude, but about giving hope when it's needed most. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in golden hues, James watched Emily walk toward the city streets, smiling and free. He turned to Lucas, who was skipping ahead happily. "Dad," Lucas said softly, "she's like magic, isn't she?" James chuckled, hugging his son. "Maybe. But the real magic, Lucas, is in the little things. A warm meal, a smile, a hand to hold when someone's falling. That's the kind of magic that changes lives." Later that evening, James sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. He reflected on the journey. The rainy mornings, the quiet routines, the hidden struggles, and the unexpected revelations. He realized that kindness wasn't just a gift. It was a bridge between hearts, between worlds, and between strangers who become family. And somewhere, in a penthouse not far from where he lived, Emily looked out her window, thinking of James and Lucas. She smiled, knowing that the man who had saved her heart without knowing her name had taught her the most important lesson of all, that genuine human kindness is worth more than anything in the world. For James, Emily, and Lucas, life had changed in ways they never expected. Not through fortune, not through fame, but through the quiet power of simple acts of love and compassion. And that, they knew, was a story worth remembering forever.